Hey everyone, welcome to a new video. This one's going to be in a slightly different style to the others, mainly because, yeah, it's quite a short one this time, and I've kind of sped up a lot of the footage just to try and get through some of the boring bits, but there's quite a lot I need to talk about over the top of it, so let's get into it. Here I'm replacing the thermostat and the thermostat housing gasket before I can move on to the next piece, which will be the oil filter housing. Before I could refit the oil filter housing, I first had to scrape off the paint that had got onto there. Essentially, when I was painting the block before, the masking came off, so I just ended up leaving it and decided to scrape it off at a later date. When doing this, you need to be careful not to actually dig into the block too much. I'm using a Stanley blade here, but I'm going very carefully with it. So if you're ever in a situation where you're doing this, make sure that you go very lightly. Next, it was time to fit the timing belt tensioner pulleys. The next step was to get the cams and the crank all set to top dead center. They were very close because obviously I tried to make sure that everything stayed at top dead center when I took the engine apart, but we just wanted to make doubly sure that everything was there before starting to time the engine. This was when things started to take a bit of a turn for us. As you're going to see in the next clip, we find a bit of a problem.
Because it's all been well lubed.
Fucking hell, Nick!
That's been well lubed up.
Oh, there's a major problem there.
As Joe rightly pointed out, there was indeed a major problem here. We could not, for the life of us, get the engine to crank over by hand. So the next couple of nights we put a bore scope down the cylinders to check for any kind of rust or anything like that, to make sure everything was okay before we started tearing the engine down. We still found that we couldn't turn the crank until we got to a certain point. Basically, we got the sump off, we got the cradle off, and then we loosened off all of the main caps and the conrod caps, and suddenly we could turn the engine quite freely. What we think has happened here is that because I left the cams in when I tore the engine down, I wasn't able to rotate everything, putting it back together, which has then caused this issue where something wasn't probably seated properly, and as a result nothing would turn. Thankfully no damage has been done, but it did mean that we had to basically tear the engine right down and then build it back up again, turning the crank all the way, this time with the cams out so that we could fully rotate the crank every time. And then as we put it back together, we give it another turn, tighten everything up, torque it to spec, give it another turn, just make sure it was still rotating constantly. Sadly, this wasn't the only problem we found. As we got to the point where we could finally get to timing the engine again, I put the timing gear on and realised that when the crank had been sent away to have a new keyway machined into it 180 degrees around from the other one, because of the original issues why the engine was apart, they'd done it not quite in the same position, so when I put the timing gear on, it was going to interfere with where that keyway was going to sit, which meant I couldn't put the crank pulley on and things like that. Thankfully, the machine shop have been amazing about this. I went down and spoke to them the next day, and they just literally said, bring everything in, we'll sort it out for you straight away. I'm only waiting for them to call back, and then we can get this engine back together. But they've been absolutely amazing with this throughout. They realised straight away what had happened, and yeah, can't fault them. Obviously there was a mistake there, they've owned up to it, that's great, we can move forward now. So the next step will be, once I get that back, we'll get the engine back together, we'll get it timed, and then I can move on to the bodywork at last. you've enjoyed this video. As I say, it's a bit of a different one to usual. I don't generally like doing too much talking on these videos unless it's actually, you know, in the video itself. But yeah, if you did, that's amazing. Hopefully things will be a bit more normal next time. Also, go check out our website now. We've got a sale on with a lot of t-shirts, stickers, and even some Nabari flags, all heavily discounted. We've also got a couple of new releases on there as well. A new NC Miata t-shirt design I'm really happy with, and a new character sticker called Goat Boy, mainly because I couldn't think of a better name for him. If you've got any names, drop them in the comments below. Anyway, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye!